Alright, so back when I had my red 400EX, I made a video when I changed the rear brake pads on it, and it seemed to help a lot of people out. So then my front started wearing out on this yellow one, so I decided I'd show y'all how to replace the front brake pads on this baby. So let's just get through what you're gonna need. Man, that looks weird through this super view lens. Floor jack, I'm gonna use a floor jack, or you could use a bunch of blocks of wood just to get this wheel in the air. Impact gun, or just a ratchet with 17mm socket on it, a 12mm and 10mm socket, and a 5mm Allen head, and a ratchet maybe. Flathead screwdriver, something like this. You could use a Phillips screwdriver and one of these clamps, and then your pads. So we'll just get into this. Before y'all scroll down to the comments and ask, yes, my back wheel's missing, that the tire was leaking some air, so we took it off and was taking a look at it. So it's just gonna sit without a wheel for now. First thing you wanna do is get the front end in there so you can take the wheel off. You can set it on some blocks of wood, or you can jack it up. I'm gonna use both. I'm gonna jack it up in the middle just to help it get in the air some. See if I can do this. Alright, yeah, that should work good. If you didn't have blocks of wood and just a jack, you can jack it up in here, but then your jack would be in your way. But you could probably still manage, but here's how I'll do it. Alright, front wheel's in the air, so let's get her took off. Alright, your lugs are 17mm, so I'm gonna use an impact gun. You can use a ratchet too. So 17mm socket on there, and they should suck them right off. Then you can just slide your front wheel off like that. The next thing, I'm gonna do it, you probably don't have to, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it makes this whole thing look cleaner. I'm gonna take this plastic piece off, and all it requires is this 10mm bolt right there. So I got this ratchet, and I'm gonna take her off. And there you go. Keep your bolts placed together, wouldn't want to mismatch them. So then we can take some of these bolts out to get that caliper off. So if we're getting this caliper off, you've got two 12mm bolts. You got one right here, and you've got another one down here, right there. So we're gonna take those off, and then your caliper should slide right off. So let's get this thing set up where y'all can see just a little bit. And it should sit. And then let's do that. It's one. Then you go down here and you get the other. Once you get them so loose, you can take them out with your fingers. And there's the second one. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit y'all. And then, boom, slid right off. Now let me show y'all the next step. All right, so on your caliper, you've got two, I guess, screws, I don't really know what they're called, that sit right here, and they guard the bolts that hold your brake pads together and on the caliper. So what you're gonna use to take those out will be your flathead screwdriver. So let's get them things took off. Pretty simple for the most part. They're not very big. If I can get it on there. They break pretty easy, and they come right off. So do both of those, and then you'll be ready to take those bolts out. So this is probably one of the trickiest things to do, and it's just getting these bolts out, and it's because you don't want to pull around on it too hard. You'll pull this line here off, and you don't want to do that. So this is where you'll use your 5mm Allen head, and whoops, and then you'll slide her on there and try to keep a hold on your caliper so it doesn't go anywhere. You may have to use your leg There we go, I got it. That was a little bit easier. So you get your threads out so far, and then it doesn't really do much more. So that's where you see these two holes right there. You'll get your Phillips screwdriver here, and I'll just use my flathead screwdriver to poke them out. So get them in there like that, and you'll just peck on it like that. There's one. There's that pad fell out. And there's the other one. These two bolts right here. And then with that being said, see, this one done fell out. Whoop, your pads should just slide straight out. And there you go. Okay, don't rush too far ahead and start putting your new pads in, because they won't work just yet. You got this piston right here that's farther up than it needs to be for the new pads, because your old pads were thinner and need to be farther up to push them together. So this needs to be pushed back to fit your thicker pads in there. And to do that, we will use one of these. So this end here will go against the piston, and this here will go against your caliper. Just loosen it up to where it'll fit in there. And then make sure she's on the piston good and just tighten her up. And it should just push that piston straight back. Alright, we'll see how that did. And then we'll try to fit our new pads in there. I got my new pads. Box ain't even opened yet. And there we go. Alright, so these were originally for the backs, and we ended up not needing them, so we just kept them. And here's a piece that your old pads have. It's this metal piece right here. It'll just come right off, and I'm just gonna slide it on the new pad, just in case. This pops right on there, pretty simple. And then you're gonna slide that in there. I'm gonna move this so where y'all can see. Slide that new pad on. And this one. And I was wrong. I'm gonna have to move the piston farther back. Alright, I got my piston moved back enough to where I can fit my new pads in there. They fit in pretty good. And now we're ready to put these bolts back in there. And you want to line your holes up in your pads. See, they have holes. You want to line them up in there just right to get them back through there. Sometimes it can be pretty aggravating, but it is doable. Just get both of those in there. May want a hammer too to help peck them down. Now they're both down pretty far, so let's see if we can get them started in their hole. It looks like that one's starting. Alright, that one started. And they hit a stopping point, and that's whenever you know they're tight. They just won't turn anymore. It doesn't just get tighter, you can just feel it stop. And there you are. That's when you take these little flathead screwdriver pieces, and you slide them in there, get them going. Just kind of set them into place and start turning them. And there you go, you get them started, just kind of set them into place and start turning them. And these are like the bolts, they don't just get tighter, they just stop turning. Get them in there, and there you go, they stop turning. So now you're ready to see if you can fit it on the rotor. Alright, you may have to use that clamp and push it back even more whenever the pads are on there. Once you get them on there, you can kind of pull them apart and push them against that rotor. You ain't got to line the other holes up just yet. Just make sure you can get it on there. So you may have to wiggle her back and forth some, and it may be tough, but you can get it on there. Just make sure it's on there good. And with that being said, you can bolt her on there using that 12mm socket and a ratchet and the 2 bolts you took off earlier. So let's do that. I think the easiest way for me to do this is just to set it in the socket and get it started by hand, and then you can start. And once you make sure it's started, then you can use a ratchet on it. All right, believe that one's started. So let's tighten her up. We can get this on there. Okay, quick tip. Don't completely tighten the top one yet, to make sure you can still move it around so you can get your bottom one started. It's probably a better idea just to get them both started before you tighten them both up. Remember, keep it snug, don't over tighten. And I'm sorry I keep hitting the camera. And there you have it. Now you can put this rotor guard back on. Went on the same way it came off, just like that. And that one's a 10mm. I have to switch sockets here. Get that jewel started, and then you can tighten her up. Then you can put your wheel back on. Also, leave a comment if you're having any issues, and we'll see if we can help you out with that. See if we can talk you through it. Remember, do not over tighten there, you're just going into plastic. And there you have it. If you got all that done correctly, you should be ready to just slide your wheel back on. Make sure you get the holes lined up correctly. And this jack is set down, so you may have to jack it back up some if you're using a jack. Now, just turn her the right way and they slide right in there. Hopefully you didn't lose your lugs. I like to start them all by hand first before I lay the impact to them, so just get them all started by hand real quick. Don't over tighten these lugs. That is not a smart thing to do. You won't want to round them out or just really have to work hard next time to get them off. So unfortunately for me, that was the only set of brake pads I had right now. I need to do the other side, but I'm waiting on pads, so I'll get pads in and I'll get this side done. You can see my rotor's already off. I just slung the wheel on there for the video, but we'll get those pads put on and this thing will be ready to go brake wise once we get that wheel fixed up. And then I got a carrier on the way too. If y'all want to see a install on that, let us know in the comments. But I thank y'all for watching. Remember, like I said earlier, let us know in the comments if you had any problems and we'll see if we can talk you through it. So we'll catch you guys in the next one.